Hi everyone, I figured I would do this quick screencast for you because we didn't necessarily finish everything in class that I wanted to get to. So I wanted you to be able to see this. This is El Nino Southern Oscillation, the climate patterns. So you see actually over here is where El Nino occurs. Oh, it's not drawing. There we go. And here's where you get different types of climate patterns. It's warmer all up here in Alaska and in the northern parts of the hemisphere. It is cooler in certain areas. It is wetter in other areas. It's warmer in other areas. And that's all around the world because of El Nino. So with weather and climate, the main difference is weather is kind of right now, temperature, precipitation, cloudiness. Climate is the average weather conditions that occur over 30 years. The most two important factors are your temperature and your precipitation to climate. That's what you graphed in that climatogram lab. Okay, we did go over rain shadows in class. Okay, this on the windward side, you have the moist air that comes up. It gets high in the atmosphere, it gets cooler, it condenses, and what happens is that rain actually drops and that precipitation happens on the windward side, and then when those clouds get over to the leeward side, there just isn't anything left in them, and you get a desert usually or a dry areas on the other side, and we call that the leeward side of the mountain or the shadow part of the rain shadow. Okay, biomes. Distinct terrestrial region with a similar climate, soil, plants, animals, no matter where it is in the world. So we have the chaparral climate, which occurs in California, but also in places like Italy and Greece. So these locations are determined by your temperature and your precipitation. So if you look around the world, we have different areas of biomes. And you have boreal forest, which is this light blue up here. You have the Mediterranean or chaparral, which you see kind of rings the whole Mediterranean, but also you have it here in Southern California, a bit down south here in South Africa, different deserts, different tropical seasonal forests, tropical rainforests, and then you have temperate grasslands, temperate forests, meaning that you have those seasons. Here's another image. Okay, so biomes and weather cells. So what happens is you know that hot, moist air rises at the equator. And what that does is that creates the tropical areas. Okay, so that's what really contributes to these biomes. So here we go. Air rising at the equator forms the formation of rain clouds. It rains down. By the time it gets into the 30 degrees, it's lost a lot of its moisture. So usually at your 30 north and south of the equator, you have these deserts. And same thing in temperate areas, you have these moist conditions, it rises up, and then you have deserts and polar regions kind of separating your temperate and your tropical areas. So here you can see your Hadleys, your Ferals, and your polars. I really like this infographic. Right? So predicting biome distribution. Temperature and precipitation are excellent predictors of this, and temperature, as you know, decreases from the equator to the poles. So it gets colder the further away from the equator that you move. So you'll see by the desert, you'll have these tropical forests, these savannas, semi-deserts, and deserts, and then towards the poles, you'll have snow and ice, tundra, and stuff like that. Okay, so that's your annual precipitation there. Same effect with vertical zonation. As you move up in elevation, your temperature decreases. Here is a bit about the tundra. I'm not going to go through and read these for you guys. If you want, you can pause and look at everything. I'm just going to take a look at the high points of each. So you have permafrost, which means that the tundra is permanently frozen about 6 to 12 inches underneath the ground. Very low primary productivity, nutrient poor soils, super, super short growing season. Okay, sometimes covered in snow, sometimes not covered in snow. Boreal forests, or your coniferous forests, this covers a large majority of the northern part of the northern feral cells. Growing season is a little longer than tundra. You can see that there are wide variations in temperature. And you have different types of coniferous trees, mostly drought resistant. You have some larger animals, but small animals and migrating birds. This is what it looks like. This is your coniferous forest, your boreal forest. otherwise known as the taiga. Temperate deciduous forest. Temperate meaning that it has these seasons. And if you look, you can see that this temperate deciduous forest is in the northern hemisphere because in the summer months of June, July, and August, that temperature actually increases. And then what we call our winter months in the northern hemisphere, your temperature actually decreases. This is us. Deciduous meaning that the trees lose their leaves. This is what it looks like. We're coming into leaf peeping season. That's where people go out and they look at all the different colors on the trees. A lot of people travel up into New England to go do that. Grassland is what it seems. Grass. Hot summers, cold winters, not a lot of precipitation to support trees. 90% of this biome we actually farm. Really great, amazing soil. However, a lot of fires actually keep a lot of the vegetation down. And you can see here that the winter months actually coincide with the rainiest seasons as well. Small animals, prairie dogs, bison, stuff like that. And this is your typical grassland. Temperate rainforest, meaning that you have 4 different seasons. Northwest of the US, not as temperate as on the East Coast, but you can see here they definitely have a much wetter season and they definitely have a much drier season. Cool temperatures, slow decomposition. You have large evergreen trees, old growth forests, very high in species richness. Okay, and a lot of logging goes on here. It's a beautiful temperate rainforest of like the Northwest in the US. Tropical rainforest. Tropical. Almost consistent temperature, warm and moist, very productive biome. It is the most species-rich terrestrial biome there is. The soil is crap because all of the nutrients are basically locked up in the vegetation. You have very distinct canopy layers and an insane amount of amphibians, reptiles, insects, and you do have a more pronounced wet season and dry season, but even their dry season is still pretty wet. And this is your typical lush tropical rainforest. Chaparral. This is your Mediterranean climate that I was pointing out before. Not a lot of rainfall kind of any time of the year, but they definitely do have way less rain in the northern hemisphere summer months, those June, July, August. Hot, dry summers, frequent fires, just like what's going on in California right now. You have Napa Valley that is burning. You have evergreen shrubs, chipmunks, species of birds, and stuff like that. And this is what it looks like. Lower trees, not huge trees in the landscape, kind of low shrubby kind of stuff. Your savanna is a tropical grassland instead of a temperate grassland like we have in North America. Some scattering trees. This is regulated by precipitation and not temperature. However, you can see here that this savanna, it seems, is in the southern hemisphere because their colder months are in June, July, and August. Okay, you can see that also coincides with a very dry season. This is your typical Lion King area. The soil is low in nutrients due to leaching. You have hoofed animals, lions, hyenas, wide expanses of grass, occasional trees. Okay, just like this. And last but not least, we have deserts. Soil is low in nutrients, high in salts, not a lot of precipitation, and because of the lack of moisture in the atmosphere, you get extremes from the day to the night. So it can be 110 degrees during the day with the sun, but because there's not that moisture in the atmosphere to actually hold that temperature, you can drop to the 40s and 30s at night. So animals are very small. They need to be able to regulate their temperature. And for this one, this is a temperate desert. It is warmer in the summer months in the northern hemisphere of June, July, and August, but you can see that rainfall is pretty low overall. And that's your typical desert. I hope this has helped you for your 2B quiz on Thursday. I hope you have a good PSAT or a good auditorium, volleyball, whatever it is that you guys are doing.